Alright, so we're back working on this 2012 Dodge Durango. We're going to be replacing the door latch on here, and I wanted to do this video because it's kind of complicated getting in here and getting to this door lock cylinder. So there's a lot of tips and things you don't want to do that I learned. And you know, you may, if you need to replace your door window regulator, window motor, the door latch, anything along those lines, then this is the procedure you would go about. So let's just go ahead and get started. Now this is what the door lock cylinder looks like. So I got a replacement, and also I got one that came with a key, so I'm not going to have to worry about, you know, going to the locksmith and getting this keyed. So I don't know what it cost to do something like that, or, you know, go get it fixed, but, you know, this was only around $35 for this and the key. So, and then I can do it myself. Okay, now I've already got the of course the cylinder lock out of there, but I'm going to show you how you're going to go about removing it. And believe it or not, there's only a couple of screws or bolts holding this. There's one hiding down in here. You're going to need some pick tools, and there's one up in here. Okay, first thing, we'll take our hooked pick tool, we'll come up here, get in behind it, pull that piece out. Right in here we got a 10mm. You'll see a Phillips, don't worry about that. Pull your handle out of the way. And now we're going to take this pick tool, and you want to be careful, take your time. You don't want to be gouging up your cover pieces. Okay, now we're going to go down here with our 7mm. Let's go ahead and get that screw out. Okay, for this part we're going to be using these trim tools. Now I want to point out that this panel has these snaps going all around it. Now it is very, very difficult to pull this off at first. You're really going to have to get to pull on it very, very hard. Also, something very important, along the top here, it's snapped. It's not setting down in like it does on a lot of them. So if you're not careful, you can break all these snaps. You see mine? That's because I broke almost every snap on the top there because I got hasty when I was removing it, and I didn't have these popped out good before I started lifting it up over the lock there. So be careful. It's plastic, like with anything age, and it's easy to break stuff. So you want to make sure you get all of these snaps completely popped loose all the way around. So you're going to start down at the bottom here, and like I said, I can't stress enough how hard you're going to have to pull to get this loose. And it won't be uncommon if you don't just break a few of these with doing it completely correctly. You may break a few. So we're going to start pulling just at one spot, and once we get one area, usually the whole thing will just start popping loose everywhere else. Okay, so see how all of these snaps pretty much have popped loose along this side. So now we just got to get it loose, and the only thing hanging is just right up here. Now I'll show you once we get this off of here exactly what happened on the top. So now we got to lift it up and make sure we've got this end popped out, and it's going to lift up and over. We'll have a few connections. Okay, now this handle will simply pop out of here. Okay, let me back up here. This screw does have to come out because the handle piece will not pop off with that screw on there, so I was incorrect. Alright, with that screw out, this will easily just pop off. Okay, over here we got a connector, push down. With the panel off, it's easier to push this connector or this switch to push it through, and then you can more easily get to this. And there's a red lock. You're going to want to use your trim tool to pull that little lock back, you see, and then we can push down. Alright, we'll just take that off a minute. Okay, now we can remove the panel. Okay, this is the back side of the panel, and this is what happened when I got hasty and went to yanking up before I had these pulled out all the way. So this is what I'm talking about. This is what it's supposed to look like. This one broke off, this one broke off, this one broke off. So I'm going to have to use some silicone or something to try to hold these in so it's not quite so loose up here at the top. But you just want, that's what you want to be cautious with, is that you don't contort or bend these areas, because it's very easy to break this plastic. Okay, now what we have to work on is disconnecting our electrical connections and stuff. We're going to be removing this wire eventually. We're just going to pop these up, and this here opens up to get access in here. You just pull back on there. It just kind of fell open, but this wire runs down in here. We simply disconnect it. Sometimes you got to use a pick tool because these connectors don't want to cooperate. Okay, so we got that disconnected from here. Now these type of connectors, if you come underneath and you push in from the back side, you can avoid breaking them. Now this wire is running in behind here. It's clipped in and in behind a zip tie. Now there's a couple ways you can remove it. You can wait till we get the door regulator, or we can reach up in here and feel for it and get that connector loose and pull it out. So either way you want to do it, putting it back, it's going to be much harder to try to connect it with it up in there because it's kind of on top of this latch assembly. Essentially it's running to the top of this. This is your door latch assembly. Okay, and just to show you it can be done, just reaching in here, going up to the top, like right in here, and popping that loose. And it said it goes in behind a zip tie. At least that's the way it is on here. So when you put it back, you want to put it back the same way. It's also got a couple of these clips here, and it's mainly to keep this wire from getting caught up in to the window when you put this wire back. So if it's flopping around in there, then it's going to get caught and wind up destroying the wire. So right now I'm pushing it past the zip tie. So I just want to show you that that could be done. Okay, the next thing we're going to work on is the speaker. I've got a T20 Torx, and we're just going to take these out. And it's going to be stuck a little bit. You may have to get under it with your trim tool. Kind of break it loose. And we'll flip it over here. Just push down. Set that aside. Okay, we want to pop the rest of these wires loose here. Running around. Got a connector right here. Just going to push in. We'll leave the one on the motor for now. All right, we got to get the key in so we can roll the window down now. All All right, we're going to watch in this one and then the other side. What we're trying to do is get this right in this little window here. Same way on this side, we need to get it down right about there. Let me show you. Okay, what you're looking at there, it's like a little plastic clip on this window. We have to go back inside this wire with the screwdriver and give that a push, and then that will unlock and lift up off there. We have to do the same thing on the other side, kind of at the same time. And it might be good to have a helper for this. Okay, see how that's loose? Okay, now basically we have the window that is just completely loose in here. Now I'm just going to let it sit there for the moment. You do need to hold this up eventually, but you're going to make sure that you hold your window properly and not let it fall, because you can scratch up and damage your window and everything. Okay, now we're going to focus on removing the rest of these wires. Get our window motor, push that lock up. Okay, and you just want to, pay attention when you go to unhooking these. So we got to disconnect all these. We want to make sure that we get everything back where it goes. Now there's a little, let me zoom in. The little tab here inside is what we got to push down on, and then we can pull those out. Okay, now these are all going to be pretty much the same. Just push up. Okay, so all of our wires and everything is loose. So everything loose from the door, the window actuator, this whole assembly. Now this right here will simply push back through. Don't worry about that. Okay, so all around the window regulator we've got these 10 millimeters. So we're going to just go around and we're going to take all the 10 millimeters out first. Okay, now the window, like I said, I should have had something under there because the window just fell on down since I got this loose. So you got to be careful with your window. Okay, now we've got T30. We got to get on this little lock. So pretty simple. We're just going to turn it clockwise to unlock it, basically, so that will push through. We got one right over here. Just going to treat it the same way. And then one more right down here. Okay, now this here will be loose, but we got one more thing we got to do. Okay, we had to take our T30 and we're going to take these three right here out in our latch actuator. Okay, so that has that freed up. And I would recommend using some wedges along. These suction cups will pop off here sometimes, so don't just rely on those unless you got like a couple of them or something, but have a kind of a backup means. Maybe put a stick in here, because you don't want your window falling down and getting broken or breaking something else. So this is somewhat loose, and I want to be able to get, see, I'm kind of lifting this up. This regulator over here will kind of hang up on this door. So you kind of got to watch this end here. as you're bringing this out. Okay, when I pull it out a little bit, I can look over here. If you look down there, that's where the rod's. Now I already got the lock off of there, but you can see the other one that's going on to that connector. Okay, actually I already had it off there, but you see that purple connector, you're going to pop that off of there and pop that little handle out. So if you can kind of see how, if you ever removed one of these rods, basically this piece here pops out and allows you to pull that little rod out of there. And that's how we have to disconnect both of those. Okay, and with that, those rods separated, then we should be able to just lift this up and pull. We're going to push this back. I'm just going to push this back in here. Make sure your rods aren't hung up, and then we'll pull this whole thing out. So we'll just take a look at this to give you a close-up. You should pretty much know what this side looks like. That's how that comes off there, is one piece. So as far as replacing this, you'd either have to unsnap it from this piece or bolt a new arm, whatever. How you buy it, because it's all attached to this regulator. It's like just one big piece. You see how it's got these like a plastic rivet or something there? So this just gives you a look at the regulator. So if you were to be having issues with the regulator, not the motor, then this is what you would need to replace, this whole entire piece here. You see how you got the cables, the rollers. Probably doesn't hurt to help keep these greased a little bit as well when you got it out. So these are just these typical clips that hold the rods in. You have to push that little thing clip back. It unclips from the rod, and then you just simply slide it from out of that hole there. So you have to get those disconnected to pull this whole entire thing. So I'll kind of show you putting it back to give you a little more of an idea. And disregard what I was talking about pushing this back. I don't know what I was thinking that it was attached to, but you don't need to push that back at all. Okay, so I've just lowered the window back down out of my way. Now what I need to do is I need to pop this piece off of here. Alright, so get that out of the way. Now if we look right down through here, that window down, you can see those screws right there. Those are the two going into the lock. And we also got another one over on this other side over here. Okay, now I'm going to just completely remove this glass. I even have these little rain guards on here, and just to show you how we're coming out the outside at this angle. Kind of got it sitting here. I just want it completely out of the way. Last time I just pushed it over, but to avoid getting it damaged and show you how to take this out, we'll just go ahead and take it completely out. And I'm just getting ready to pull it completely up and out the top here. Okay, and with that glass out of the way, we can easily look in here and we can see the two screws down there. Of course, they're backed off because the lock is not in there, and then we see the screw right here. And we also got a connector right here. We can disconnect that to be able to remove the whole handle. Okay, so we're going to take this 8mm. Now it may be easier to pop this piece off right here to get access to these two screws. There's like a little access port over here. Not sure if I want to take any more stuff off here, but we're going to pop that off. Okay, so you can see here's the little access port. Just pop that thing off of there. And I'm thinking without having to take this all the way up, I'm just going to move it over a little bit. Okay, now for this portion, you're definitely going to need an extension to get over here. I'm just going to go in through that. We got it loose. Just going up in here and getting these screws. Okay, now we should be able to remove the handle. We're going to try to remove this portion. It's got a spring. You have to reach in here and push this down. Of course, we do have to have that rod off there too. Just a moment. So if you can see through that window, we're just going to pop that rod loose like that, and then we'll just take that out, and that's how all those work. And you want to mark the end of your rod so you don't get mixed up. Just mark which end goes where. Now I wouldn't necessarily need to take this all the way out, but since we're this far, we might as well just go ahead and do it so I can show you. Be careful around your paint. I'm just gonna, that end's gonna slide right out. So I'm going to give you a view of all this. So this is like the part that was spring loaded. So I had to push that down in order to feed that out. So two screws going in here with a lock, and then the screw going in this end. And this is kind of on a hinge here, and it has the connector going to that handle. So let's go ahead and get our new lock. And so even this rod I'm going to connect to the cylinder. See, I've got it marked. So we would just go ahead and, you know, we could put this on there, we could feed this in either way, but that just goes on there, locks in just like that. And of course this we would take, and it's going to set just like that, and then the screws are going to go into this from the inside. And see all these rods the same way, it's just going to push in, and that's going to clip on that rod. So I could probably feed these in as well. I don't know if I could feed both of them, but I know that little one will go, and then we'll just push. And when you unlock them, you just do the reverse. You just pop that back and slide it out. So it's just that easy. That's how all these little rods work. So I'm going to see if I can feed them in with the rods attached. And see, we may not be able to, because I do have to slide that in down there. So no, can't do it with the rods on there. This end, we're going to slide in first. It's a hinge, got a couple of little pegs right there that are going to go into their spot. We're going to fold this spring okay, it's just easy to pull on the handle than it is to try to fold that spring down. So we've got it inserted. All right, I'm going to start feeding the screws in by hand. And our second screw. You know, you'll see me using the impact to take things apart, but you don't see me using it going back together. You don't have to get this terribly tight. I'm just going to kind of snug these a little bit, tighten them all at once. Just using a little 1/4-inch ratchet. They don't have to be just terribly tight. You will strip the plastic out. Okay, and once we get this one in, we'll just kind of snug them all at once. So just snugging it with a little 1/4 inch micro ratchet. That's good enough. Okay, now we need to go in here and get our little rods in place. I think we'll start with the white one. So the rods are on, we just got to worry about getting them connected to the latch as we put that in. Might as well put this little cover back on. Okay, so I'm nosing the glass back down in. I can't stress how easy it is to damage your window tint, so definitely be careful. You may even cover it up with something, maybe a better idea with some paper or something. So I got my suction cup and I got some foam wedged over here, so hopefully if it does come off, that will slow it down. So you definitely want to be careful. So I actually just noticed that this has some, looks like 8mm or something holding it on here. So if this this regulator, actually you could bolt it back onto this door panel here. So if you bought the replacement, you would just undo those 4, and I guess you could undo the motor and simply replace that mechanism without this panel. I was thinking this was one piece. Okay, you see the little wire, we're going to feed that back through this hole down here, but it's pretty simple. Only thing I have to worry about is like this end right here, this lower end. We have to kind of get this whole thing fed in here and get it to clear. So just kind of lifting it up, we're going to get this to clear. We'll watch those rods in there too. And you want to watch your regulator cables, make sure they don't hang up on the frame of the door. Now before I fasten anything else, I want to reach in there and make sure I can get these rods connected. It's going to be kind of hard to really show you anything on this. Now I'm going to want to show you how I'm going about this. I'm kind of like peeling this back and peeking down in here, and at the same time reaching my hand from in here, and I'm just watching as I connect those rods. Okay, so if you can see, we've got those connected. If you can see anything, it wasn't too hard. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this wire over here before I go any farther. I want to make sure I can get that connected easily. Okay, so I got that wire connected in there. Now make sure to go back under that zip tie as you're connecting that, but it's a little bit easier to get it without loose. You can kind of look in there. Okay, now when we're putting these little T30s, I'm going to actually use a little bit of medium Loctite on these. Okay, and you'll have to take your other hand and reach in and push this door lock up there. Now I'm just going to snug these all down good with a good 1/4 inch. So they're just little bolts. And once we get these snugged up, I think we'll go ahead and test our lockout before we go to putting anything else. So I'm just using a 1/4 inch ratchet. I know I'm not going to overdo it. Alright, appears it's doing its job. Alright, moving back to the panel. These will turn because they just kind of turn freely. So you're going to have to straighten them back up. So remember this wire, we want to make sure that we've got this fed back into these spots. Got a couple of spots here that it clips into. and that's just going to ensure that that wire does not get anywhere near that window and get caught up there. So that's going to get snapped back there. Okay, I just noticed these right here. I actually was starting to put these on wrong, but they're made where this little tab here where you can't put it in the wrong spot. And we're going to get the glass down before we proceed on. It's really easy to put this back in. Okay, I'm just guiding it down, and it's just going to go right back in place. We're going to watch it on both sides. And that's just going to shove right back in there. Now if it doesn't latch, then you'll want to move it over a little bit. Just make sure you got it in there properly. You can see on both sides we lift up, it's latched down in there, and you'll hear it click. Now we want to make sure that our window is working. Now that we've got them all in alignment, we'll snug them all down at once. And just snugging these down a little bit with a 1/4 inch. Pretty simple to put this on. It does have a couple of alignment pegs here and on this other side right here, but you do have to kind of, these have slack, so you do have to kind of go in there and look at them and make sure that they're going into place properly. Now we've got the wire connector right over here we need to connect, and we're just going to feed that through. Okay, and I almost forgot to snap the handle back in place. Okay, we snapped the handle in and we got this back through. So you kind of look in here and make sure these are lining up. Okay, and same thing all the way around, make sure they're in place, and then start hitting them down and they'll lock in. We'll just start here. Our Phillips screw, maybe if we can quit dropping it. Okay, I made a mistake and left this piece out, so I'm going to have to pop this back loose and get this in here momentarily. Yeah, this kind of stuff happens when you're putting something together, but I just had to pop the top part out a little bit, not a big deal. Get our 10mm. Get our 7mm back down in here. Alright, so there we have everything back together, and of course I'll just check it again, make sure everything's still fine and working. Alright, so the window's working good. Alright, so that's going to do it on replacing this door cylinder lock. And you know, if you need to know how to get the regulator, like I said, the door lock, the actuator, or the window, or any of those things, window motor, this should have you covered. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and thanks for watching.